All right, so I'm coming off a really big month of July for my trading, closing about $30,000 on the swing trading side of things and having a 3.2% option selling month, which is absolutely amazing. 3.2% does not sound like a lot, but remember, I'm averaging 3 to 4%, sometimes even 5 or 6% on my live account every single month for option selling, which equates to thousands of dollars. And obviously, I'm way outperforming the S&P 500 every single year. I had a really good month last month, and I want to recap the month of July because this is a really great example of how my system synergizes so well with all the upside from the swing trading and then obviously having the consistent cash flow from option selling. So before we start, I want you guys to go and follow me on Instagram at CYRN because we just dropped our Discord and we're dropping, crazy free sauce over there. Discord is completely free. So if you guys aren't following, if you're not on the Discord, go do that right now before we jump into the video. Now, what I will say is Palantir being the first one and the biggest on the list with about $17,000 in profit closed. I'll flash up all the, trade receipts on the screen. I actually exited it around this high right here, and then we have proceeded to pump another let's actually measure that out, about 3-4%, and we're way off all-time highs with Palantir specifically. But I'm gonna start with all the swing trades first, then I'll move into the option selling. But you'll find that the examples that I show you guys in this are going to be very, very similar, to how I played each of the trades. So I'm going to kind of recap the trades very quickly, and then I'm going to go over the overall pattern that I find with this and, how I actually like to enter my swing trades. So obviously Palantir, like I said, trading way off of its all-time highs. I think it deserved a good pullback, especially after you see this kind of price action just kind of jumping all the way up and their valuation trading pretty high. Now, what I will say with this is the leg that got me really interested because we just kind of crashed with no retracements and then we tapped into a key level of support. I actually put my entry between these two support levels, and you can see here that we sustained a lot of drawdown for a minute, and then I added to the position down here. So a big thing you'll see with my swing trading is I never blow my load on the first entry. I always have capital set aside. So what I do is if I'm saying, well, I want to allocate $50,000 to a position, maybe the first position is, 10 to 20,000, depending on the entry that I'm getting. And then I'm saving more on the sidelines to enter, more positions later if I can get a lower cost basis. And remember, this very much matters because the stock that you're doing this on, has to be a stock that you believe in, the underlying asset has to be rock solid. The fundamentals have to be really good. And obviously the biggest thing is, you want to hold this long term. You should be able to sustain 50% drawdown on these types of trades, because these are long-term positions, obviously. But in this case with Palantir, entered my first position around here, and then we almost bottom ticked it, exact same system. So again, you guys know my system by now. 10 to 15% off all-time highs, and then we want to see at least a 5 to 10% drop, which we did. We had right here, tapping into key levels of support, which was what we like to see. Then obviously we used the 200-day SMA for confirmation. We were trading below it, so again, you guys know this, the fundamentals have to be rock solid. Now, I was playing this a little bit early right here with Palantir, just because I liked the support level that was continuously tested, so I did think we'd see some reaction off of it. We had a very small move, and then continued back down. Now, what I will say is this is the entry that really got me going, because this was a support level that actually has, is no longer here. But this is where I was like, I would love to pick up some more shares here, so I entered a bigger position down here. And obviously from the share price of the old cost basis is about 15% lower. So for me, that, again, totally fits the system where it's going to be, we're obviously 10 to 15% off all-time highs, easily 5 to 10% off the most recent high. We're about 20% from this recent high. Again, no pullback. So for me, this is just a good area. There was a level of support right here that's not displaying on the indicator right now, but tapping into a key level of support, again, fits my system, happy to enter it. And then you can see that we rebounded off here. We're trading close to my cost basis right here. My cost basis from down here is obviously in profit. Now, the biggest thing here, and we got the earnings. Palantir absolutely smashed their earnings and sent the stock absolutely ripping. So this is kind of the catalyst that pushed us even higher. And this is my whole system realistically, where it's, find a good company, good pullback, like not just some baby ass pullback. We want to see a proper, decent pullback of, at least, 5 to 10%. At least, at minimum. Obviously Palantir can move very quickly, so that's obviously stretched. Like off this recent high again is about 20%. So 10 to 20% is where I'm like, what, I'm very interested in this now. When the chart is ugly, this is where I am paying attention. Everybody right here is like, oh bro, this move was so obvious and everything. I'm like, dude, nobody was in this trade with me from the lows of like $100. If we broke below this $100 level, I thought Palantir was going to go for an absolutely wild ride. So overall, I will say, the conviction on my trades are very, very high. I do my own, due diligence, my own fundamentals. So I will say the underlying asset does, hold a lot of weight in these situations, and I can't stress that enough to you guys. So do your own research, pick stocks that you like and you want to own long term. I'm merely just trying to educate you guys on a vehicle to do this on good stocks, but no strategy, nothing is saving you from a bad stock pick. But overall, Palantir with about a $17,000 gain. Absolutely amazing. Love to see that. Microsoft is going to be the next one I want to take a look at. Specifically, it is around the same setup. Again, like you're going to find that this pattern is very similar here. We had this giant impulse. We had a massive leg come all the way down with really no retrace, down about 18%, almost 20%. Microsoft is way off their all-time highs as well. As you guys know, trading about 562 at the highs, all the way down to where our share price was about 31%. So when a Mag 7 stock like this is trading 31% off of its all-time highs, I am, basically foaming at the mouth, excited. So you can see that we are still up. This is not a closed position. I want to make that very clear. While we are having a massive month, I just need to preface that this is not a closed position. This is still open P&L, but it's about $11,000 in profit, and there's no sign of slowing down until we reach back to those all-time highs for me. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for here. But again, trading way off the highs, at least 10 to 15%. From that high to this low was about an 18% drop from the most recent high down. And even if you want to get really technical with it, from this high that we made all the way down is still almost 5%. This is actually where I entered the trade right here. And again, you can see I picked such good levels of support. I'm trading in between two levels. Literally where I entered it, we had a solid bounce of we can actually check. We had about a 5% bounce from where I entered it, and then came back below. And I actually had a limit around 345 just to, be like, okay, we're heavily in drawdown. When I say heavily in drawdown, I realistically mean down to 345 is 9%. So about 10% in drawdown is where I would have been like, should I reassess what's going on with Microsoft? Are we doing okay? Is everyone, is lights on, nobody's home, or what's going on here? So we never even touched my limit order. We rebounded completely. And then we just kind of stayed from literally once we came back to our cost basis for probably 28 days. So literally 1 month, we were just kind of stagnant, not doing anything. And again, just like the Palantir trade, earnings came out, absolute insane earnings from Microsoft. Personally, and in my own opinion, I think Microsoft is one of the cleanest business models out there, and one of the few businesses that are actually using AI for what I would say properly, where it's not just it sends emails. Their AI is built into all of their systems, trying to increase their revenue and everything. So I think they're doing AI very, very well. So overall, I'm very happy with this trade as well. And from my cost basis all the way to current price is about a 31% gain. Now for me, this is definitely take profit territory. No doubt about it. This is where I would be taking profits, but this is a much longer term position where I'm yeah, this is a swing trade, but I'm only, looking to exit around the 550 level. And you can see that we've just been ripping there. I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft has, a good pullback, because this is just insane price action right now. So this is still an open position, keep that in mind, but it's about $11,000 in profit. But moving on to the next one is going to be Apple. Apple was absolutely, insane. We entered this position back in June, and this was an insane bottom tick of the market, which I find absolutely hilarious. So again, super quickly, 5 to 10% off all-time highs. 10 to 15% off all-time highs. We were about 13% off of that, so I was happy we were in territory for that. And again, you guys can see the same system play out, where I don't like seeing this little structure. I like actually seeing proper swing highs and swing lows being put in. Now, what I will say, so we were about 13% off of the all-time highs, and then this most recent high about this second leg was about 8% lower, so that 5 to 10% buffer is what I need to see. We had that right there, tapping into this key level of support, and this is where I entered the trade. Now, this was actually a smaller win for me, just because of the fact that I didn't get to enter. I thought Apple would have come and tested this support level and made some new support levels down below, but we actually didn't. We literally bottom ticked the market and just started flying away from me. And I was like, yeah, I never really add anymore on positions going up. I kind of only add on going down. So this was a smaller trade for me because it just, flew back to all-time highs. And I always exit at all-time highs here, just because, this is like no man's land. You have literally both situations of what I foresee all-time highs as, where you have, right here where we just, shoot past it, which is cool. Or we have this situation where we just dump completely off of it. So obviously in that case, this is why I just this is my personal preference, at least. I always exit at all-time highs. That was a great exit for me. You can see from the share price right here all the way up was about a 15% gain. I did leave about 10% on the table, but you don't know what's going to happen from here to here. That's completely unknown. So I'm happy to take a smaller move. $3,000 is $3,000 still. So I don't care. So anyways, Apple coming back down now, testing these levels of support. I was on with a one-on-one student actually just a few days ago, talking about why the support level was very interesting to me, where we could bounce here, then bounce off of here. So I want to see what holds. But overall, I'd like Apple to come lower for me personally if I wanted to re-enter a position. And again, guys, like this is the same system you're seeing every single time. Good pullback, second leg right here, tapping into a key level support, and again, trading above this 200-day SMA. So while my fundamentals were intact here, this was just an extra layer of confirmation for me to go, well, we still have that bullish trend intact. Same thing on Amazon. Again, 10 to 15% off all-time highs. Yes, exactly, almost 15% from all-time highs. From the most recent high, I think it was probably this one, depending on when I entered this trade, but about 14%. And then if we just want to use this recent high right here, 5% easily. So this made sense right here. And I actually ended up putting the entry between these two levels of support. Could have used this one. This would have been an absolute bottom tick, which is unreal, but this was right on earnings. So I don't really know how you're catching something like that. But me personally, I'm in the trade, assuming I was in somewhere like right here in June. You can see that we were up, we came back down. I'm not really sweating at all on stuff like this. It's Amazon. I want to own this long term. And then the earnings play, obviously Amazon smashed their earnings, like literally knocked it out of the park. Back to all-time highs, was about an 18% gain. And as you can see, we capitalized on that trade very well. I was very happy with that. Almost a $4,000 gain locked in. This position is closed. We got back to all-time highs, so I'm happy to do that. And you'll see that, especially with Apple and Amazon, it's one of those things where my gains are kind of capped in a way where we get to all-time highs too quickly, and there isn't that much room. And I only get to like put in like one position versus like Palantir, where we were like super low. I can capitalize on like a 30% gain versus like with two open positions versus like I have one position from like my cost basis here all the way up, touch all-time highs, and it's about 18%. Not complaining at all, but you can see the difference in those aspects. Again, Amazon trading, tapping and testing this 200-day SMA, obviously we're rejecting it, which is good, but fundamentals were intact. So again, this is more of a layer of confirmation for me. If we continue to break below it, that's where I would have been. Let me reassess, let me take a look at this. But overall, from the swing trading side of things, absolutely unreal. We had Microsoft, Palantir, Apple, Amazon. Very, very profitable month for the swing trading. These, setups obviously play out, here and there. It's like I'm talking like I have to take one of these positions. When was this? This was around like the 25th of June. I really saw the fruits of my labor, midway through July. So I'm not really holding these for like a week, more so I'm looking for like a good gain over probably like a few weeks to a month overall. But same setup, guys, amazing stock, underlying asset is awesome on a pullback, tapping into key levels of support, trading above the 200-day SMA. Fundamentals is probably the biggest thing here. I wouldn't be doing any of this if the fundamentals were not intact. And the most recent winner right now, that obviously will probably be in next month's video, is ServiceNow. When I acquired the shares, dude, you guys see the pattern now. Trading off all-time highs, tapping into key level support off the most recent high, trading below the 200-day SMA. So my fundamentals need to be more intact. And then obviously I'm positioned way before this move. So that's how I like to see it. But overall, we had a great month for swing trading. So switching over to the option selling side of things. This is an interesting, oh wow, I didn't even realize Celsius is up so much today. I just saw their earnings get absolutely tanked. So this is really interesting to see. But what I will say is I've been selling a lot of options this week, obviously every single week. I think this is where my cost basis is 16.5, or not my cost basis, my cash gear put. But obviously I do this every single week. I run weekly options puts specifically, and then I run covered calls on the only shares that I own, which is going to be on IREN. This is where the swing trade position is. This is where my shares are. So we're still pretty deep in drawdown here, but this has been amazing. These are the only shares that I own for the month of July. And on this position alone, I've generated 6.9% in premium gains. Basically what that means is on this one trade, so all my trades occupy less than 10% of my portfolio, but this one trade that's 10% of my portfolio, I'm generating around 6.9% in the month of August just on premium gains here. But overall, this month I closed about 3.2%, which is really good for me. I was trying to sneak that to be a little bit higher, but unfortunately, I wasn't getting as big of covered call premiums from IREN anymore. So like those were a little bit lower. But again, I want to, preface that is 3.2% premium gains alone. That's nothing share related. SMCI had an absolutely insane move. Where was it? We got assigned SMCI around like I think I want to say it was like 24, and then it absolutely flew that day after. So the share gain on this was absolutely ridiculous. So again, this is one of those things where 3.2% in premium gains alone, easily going for like a 4% month after like share gains as well included in that factor. But overall, I'm very diversified. Like this week, I have Carnival Cruise Liners in there. I have FCX, obviously a mining company. This is absolutely insane. Like this is like FCX was, I had a 58 put and we're trading at 69. So we absolutely ripped it on this. And the goal for me isn't, don't get assigned. If I'm assigned on shares, I'm not complaining at all. Like I'm happy. I have an HPE put this week as well. I'm not complaining at all. Like I actually want to be assigned shares just because of the fact that if I go to something like SoFi, the whole point here is like, if my put is down there, the stock has to drop almost 10% to assign me. So anyone that's buying kind of like through here, you're just buying at market price. I'm setting where my entries are. I'm getting paid to enter at a 10% discount. And if not, I'm just making premium money. So my whole system is very, very simple on the cash secured put side of things. I have a similar system to my swing trading, but at the same time, this is more of like that consistent cash flow type strategy that I really like seeing. That obviously if I'm doing 3.2% this month, I'm usually crushing like anywhere from like a 3 to 6% month. I'm destroying the S&P 500 in terms of returns. And I believe this month this year I'm up 22% year to date with still a few we still have a lot of the year left, so I will be still pushing to get that into the 30s, maybe 35. I don't know if I'll hit 40 this year, but that's the whole point of the game. Last year I did like 80%. And this year I don't need to do as much. As your capital grows, you kind of aim for like less of a return. You don't need to be risking as much. So my strikes kind of get farther away. The percent gain that I target is a little bit farther away. But overall, this is why I love this strategy. It's so consistent. I'm just agreeing to buy shares if we rocket off of it like we do right here. I never touch them, and I'm just making premium gains in the background. So overall, great month for option selling as well, with about a 3.2% gain. I was very happy with that. But yeah, these IREN shares are still in drawdown, which is an interesting one because I'm using them to generate so much income, like in cash flow, using the shares that I own. But this AI trade has kind of slumped off. I am a big believer in this stock long term. Obviously, analyst targets at 84. We're like 116% off there. So this swing trade, will be hopefully fruit of our labor when we get back to those levels. And obviously the covered call position is just above the cost basis. I only sell my covered call positions above cost basis. I never sell it below it unless there was like an absolute drastic need to, but I can make a separate video on like recovery and everything like that. So overall, very, very happy with my performance this month. Obviously, swing trading really did carry. Options, like there wasn't anything surprising, like options is just so consistent where I'm like, if I hit a 2.5% month, I'm like, oh, it was a slow month. I expect that maybe out of like December, January type thing. But 3.2% on the month is nothing to be shy about. I'm very, very happy with that percent gain. And I will say this month I want to go for more of a like 3.5% gain. I would much more enjoy than closing maybe near 4% just to kind of bump that up. But overall, I post all my trades on my Instagram story. Obviously, we have a Discord now, which is so cool. It's completely free, and I just call all my trades. I can give you guys more updates. You guys can ask any questions that you have. So I'm really excited that we have that. So if you haven't, go check my Instagram story. I probably have a link up there. If I don't, shoot me a DM. Happy to provide one. But overall, that's going to be it. Great trading month where this is kind of like your consistent cash flow on the option side of things, closing 3.2%. The portfolio is happy, way up, beating the S&P this year. And then obviously separately, the swing trading has just been absolutely insane this year. Obviously, aside from that Palantir position, like we still would have been up like 15K roughly, I think like 12 maybe, I don't know. But overall, that Palantir position really exploded this month and came clutch. But overall, you guys see the system, very, very simple. And you can see how my two trading styles synergize. And, I make time for both of them. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to leave a comment, or you can DM me on Instagram, or now you can actually send a message in Discord. So definitely go take a look. If you guys found this video helpful, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.